There's no chairs on sets. I've always hated chairs, and I feel like your energy dips the minute you sit down in the chair. So Apple Box is a very nice way to sit. And everybody's together. There's no video village. No, I hate that. So if ever I either go to the DIT tent, I either go to the DIT tent, or but often.
Hold on. So me and you do a film, there's no video village.
If you're with me, yeah, there's no video village. Yeah, when I ask you to come act in it, yeah.
No, I'm asking you. When I'm directing, you're acting.
I'll do whatever you say. I'm your actor. Not everybody knows, I get right into it. Not everybody knows that you're a tenured professor at NYU Film School.
Graduate film school.
Graduate Film School.
That I was tenured the last 10 years.
You've been tenured for 10 years.
Yes, so, I've been teaching 30 years there. Also artistic director at Graduate Film School too.
Amazing. So I have a question.
I was in AFI USC.
Right.
I didn't get a high enough score on GRE.
Is that right?
Yeah, so luckily for me, you don't have to take a standardized test and get into grad film school at NYU.
Oh, okay. You think you would have gone to the other ones if you had gotten in?
It was meant to me just stay home because I was in New York, so I got call people up and doing stuff. You know, I know anybody in LA, so It worked out. It worked out.
So my question, having been a teacher for so many years and seeing how much technology has evolved in terms of filmmaking, how have you noticed the students? What's the sort of mindset of the students as you've been teaching them? Have you seen an evolution?
Well, when I went to NYU, Ang Lee and Ernest Dickerson were my classmates. We were in the same class.
Right.
Ang Lee, great director. Ernest Dickerson, now director. He shot all my film from NYU Grad Film School. Then She's to Have It, School Days, Do Right, Think More Better, Jungle Fever, Malcolm X. So our generation who went to film school, we didn't care about the degrees. All we wanted was the equipment. You know, we want was equipment.
Right, the access to the equipment.
That's all we didn't even care about the degree. We just wanted access to the equipment. And now, students are doing their films, making their films on their phones.
Right.
And they're editing on their laptops. And the average student at NYU, when they leave, owe $250,000 student loans. Plus, you have to pay for your films too. They give you a couple rolls of film and equipment, but so technology has really brought a democracy to filmmaking. So if somebody says, well, what? You got a phone, you got a laptop, make your film.
Right.
Make your film.
Do they rent lighting? What about lighting?
No, you get the lights from, the school gives you lights and equipment.
Okay. And a crew? Because
the crew are your students.
Are your fellow students?
Yeah, your fellow students.
And because of that accessibility that they have now, have they been more imaginative in the way they make the movies?
I wouldn't go that far.
No?
I mean...
Well, for example, they could move the camera in ways that it would have taken, they would have had to have a jib arm or something.
Right, but and not just myself, but the faculty and, the teachers and professors, we just tell them you gotta get it done. You have everybody has a limited amount of days to shoot. Your crew is your classmates. You got to do it. You got to get out there and do it.
And is it a 3-year program? 3-year program?
3-year program. But most people leave after the 4th year.
The 4th year?
Yeah. They're trying to get the means and ways to do their thesis film.
Okay. So it all builds towards one film?
Yes.
Right.
If you're
it was the same way with acting. I went to MFA and it was all built towards our thesis.
So you can graduate with being a DP cinematographer, a DP. Show your film, and you could graduate with the script. You graduate with editing several films, and also graduate, with the film you directed.
I often get asked, how do you manage to direct and act in the same movie? And I mean, to me, I think it's easier. My question to you is, what do you feel like?
Well, first of all, my brother, I'm not an actor. I mean, the only reason I was in She's Gonna Have It because
and do the right thing. And do the right thing.
I know, but let me finish though.
Give me a second. Give me a second.
Let me build upon my thesis. couldn't afford anybody for She's Gotta Have It. And people like that character, Mars. I was really, just playing a version of myself. I mean, so then, two guys, Jim Riswell, Bill Davenport, who worked for White and Kennedy, Nike's advertising agency, they saw the film, and they decided they wanted to pair me and Michael Jordan. So Mike had just signed a big contract. He had director's approval. And they went to Mike, the GOAT, and Mike did not know who the fuck I was, did not see the film. But the rest is history. So anyway, a couple years ago, the All-Star game was in Toronto, and I finally, we were in his room, I finally got enough courage to say, Mike, why did you choose me? You've gotten big-time Master Evan directors. He said, motherfucker, you wearing my shoes. So I like to say, I've had the honor of being called a motherfucker by Michael Jordan many times, especially at courtside of the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden. And so, before I did School Days, people just knew me for
the ad,
and not even the film.
Not even She's Gotta Have It.
So, I just did little stuff, but back then, though, there was no playback, so I was relying on Ernest Dickerson. So when I was in front of the camera, I said, yo, Ernest, we had from film school, so it's like, give me another one. So I trusted. There was no playback back then.
Yeah.
So I trusted Ernest,
Oh, that's interesting.
We gradually grew up together, and
And that's the same thing with Do the Right Thing.
Yes. The best performance, I think, if you want to call that, was, I think, playing Shorty in Malcolm X. After we did Malcolm X, Denzel said, Spike, me and you, we're not doing this no more. I said, all right, D, whatever you want. He was like, me and you, all right, that's enough. I must have been messing up his flow or something.
Hilarious. That's hilarious. I loved Fences. I loved Fences.
Yeah. He said he's done.
He's done doing that?
Directing.
Really? He said that?
Yeah.
No kidding. How do you even know that? Huh. The other thing I want to talk about, because that is something that people have asked me, is rhythm. Mm-hmm. Rhythm in movies.
Right.
You have such a specific rhythm. You have a rhythm with the way you talk, the way you walk. There's a rhythm. You have a rhythm the way you walk through life that I observe. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that has permeated into all your films, but some of them which feel more personal to me, just from me on the outside, and I'm like, I can feel your rhythm. How much of that is, because I feel that same thing, how much of that is conscious? Is it sort of, after you're watching it, you acknowledge it? Or is it like a North Pole that you go towards, that you listen to as you're working through your film?
Was a director or actor?
Director.
Oh, I come from a musical family, and rhythm is music. Timing. I've heard stories about directors that they had their pictures locked, then they give it to the composer.
Right.
How is that possible?
I mean,
my composers, when the actors get the script, they get the script.
Right.
And they get scenes as I'm cutting, because I'm talking personally though. I think that music is one of the tools a filmmaker has.
Yes.
It's one of the tools. A lot of people understand music and how it could work. And I'm not trying to blast anybody. This is my opinion, and I don't see how you could. Maybe that's the way we're working, where the film is cut, then give it to the composer. I think the composer has to start when everybody else starts.
Yeah.
So they get the script, or the actors get the script, they're getting cut scenes. I know personally how my films run with and without the score.
Right.
And scores have lifted up a whole lot of my films.
Well,
but
scores are characters in your movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
And I just think that music can enhance what the audience is seeing, and also There was a time where filmmakers just go to Billboard and get the top 10 songs, just drop them in,
Wow.
give the music respect, as much respect as the other, the cinematography, production design, adding all the things that we as directors have in our toolbox to tell a story. And,
That's right.
and that's, for me, that's the goal. We're going to use everything we can
That's right.
as a team, coordinated, to tell this story. And music can help just as much as cinematography, sound design, all the other things that make up a film. How did you work in this great film? It's the bomb, man. As a director. And the lead of the film, too. How'd you do that? Whatever you did, it works.
It's just surreal that you're asking me that, and I'm sitting here with you, one of my heroes. So
Thank you. I'm not an actor, though.
no. I direct as a filmmaker, man.
all right.
And
Thank
I'm just saying, it's
Thank
like sometimes you just have to take stock in the moments you're living in.
Look, before you start, I've seen Maestro 3 times. The first time you were so gracious to invite my wife Tanya to your home screener room. Then you were so gracious to screen Maestro for my NYU grad film class and take Q&As for student now. And then the third time at the DGA. So I'm just waiting for my screener. I got Netflix. What's up? I got some screenings today. Where's Maestro at? What's happening? Scott Stupper, let's go, baby. Ted Sarandis, where's my screener?
I think they want people to go to the theater. Yeah, because it opens tomorrow.
Yeah, but you want my vote too, right?
Yeah.
Let's go.
So what was the question, sir? How do I approach it?
Yes. Directing the film, of being the lead actor.
Yeah.
Give me the science.
Yeah.
The science.
So the science is, I spent 20 some odd years acting in movies, and I was lucky enough that I had filmmakers who recognized that I don't think like an actor, that I actually think like in the macro of the whole story, and they were generous enough to allow me come with them on their journey way more than what an actor would have done. So that started with, that started even back on the television show I did on Alias, where J.J. Abrams would allow me to go in
J.J.?
Yeah.
You know J.J. and Tanya were in the same class?
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
Sarah Lawrence. Yeah.
Same class.
Wow.
And Jordan Peele's the year behind him.
Wow. Yeah, he wrote Regarding Henry when he was at Sarah Lawrence. Yeah. So I just immersed myself, and I've been a lover of film. Film's changed my life, and like one of your films that we've talked about many times, and it's just I love acting, but I always knew that the thing that really turned me on was the filmmaking process.
So on the set, were you looking at playback?
So that'll, I'll just get to that in a second. So because I was on a set in one role for so many years, anytime that I felt like maybe I could be of assistance, it was always on the field, right? So it was a sort of quarterback, really getting to know the plays and reading the defense.
What quarterback? Name your quarterback, come on.
I don't know. I mean, last night Hertz did a pretty good job. But I love what Kelsey, did you see there was that move where he was going to do it? Kelsey said, don't. It just shows you that, a center can know the game in ways that, that most quarterbacks don't even know the game. I was in a position that was marked, yet the position I was thinking about was a different one. And then finally...
What do you mean by that?
Meaning that I was a filmmaker, but I was I was in the position of an actor.
Okay.
And I think I've always been that way. And because of that, I got to know how to perceive telling a story from being on the field as opposed to outside, and that has served me. So it's very natural.
So you were calling the plays from the sideline, not up in the booth.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. Exactly. For years.
Yeah.
And I learned how to help the director by being on the field. So for me, it was such a natural transition once I had the courage to write and direct a movie, that being on the field is where I feel most comfortable to direct, actually. I don't watch playback To me, rhythm
No
of a
playback?
day. Here's what I'll do. I'll tell you in a second. So there's no chairs on sets. I've always hated chairs, and I feel like your energy dips the minute you sit down in the chair. So Apple Box is a very nice way to sit, and everybody's together. There's no video village. I hate that. So if ever I either go to the DIT tent, I either go to the DIT tent, or but often.
Hold on. So me and you do a film, there's be no video village.
If you're with me, yeah, there's no video village. Yeah, when I ask you to come act in it, yeah.
No, I'm asking you. When I'm directing, you're
I'll do whatever you say. I'm your actor. So I'll often just go with Scott Sakamoto 8 camera to his monitor, or they always have a monitor for me, and I'll watch it 2 times. So I'll watch it 2 times speed with no sound, because I also don't want to hear it.
Can you explain? You just told me that before, but explain to me so I can understand why you do not turn in the sound when you're watching.
Because I feel like when an actor hears their voice, no matter what, even if they say they don't, it's 2 things. One is I want to create a sacred space where things are really occurring in real time. And I actually think going back and watching it and hearing it, I think that's a vulnerable thing for an actor to hear. Especially there's a crew and they're hearing. I know that's what I would feel like as an actor when I would hear the director watching playback and it's playing. No one likes the sound of their own voice anyway, the majority of people. So I want to make actors feel safe to be fearless. And to me, and I don't need to hear it because I just heard it. It's all about making sure that the camera move was exactly what we had set up. So when I feel like I've doubted it, I'll go back and watch it. Other than that, I don't watch it. And again, Spike, I think it's because I became so aware as an actor of the movement of the camera and the composition that it feels second nature to me.
When did Steven Spielberg and Martin Scorsese see a cut, if they did?
I showed Marty a cut maybe a month before The Print Master. So
was the picture locked?
I don't lock the picture till my shoulders relax,
okay.
and then when that happens, the movie's done. So I didn't lock picture until we were delivering The Print Master.
Was it at your home or his office?
He screened it at his office, and then I went up to his townhouse to have the conversation.
That's around the block from me.
Is it? Yeah. And it was a dream, and he was very gracious and he conveyed his thoughts.
Any big note you got?
You got to talk to him.
All right.
But I will say this about this movie. I grew up on this movie. I became an adult making this movie because it was such a personal film stylistically in terms of the subject matter. It really was one of those things that has changed me as an artist. And and people may not like it. I'm sure they won't, but I don't think you could fuck with it. It is what it is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was
they like it, they don't like it. Simple.
And I executed exactly the vision. And there really was no other way because I didn't shoot coverage. Those scenes, there's nothing on the cutting room floor. The editing of this movie was about...
But you had some scenes you got cut though, right?
So the editing of this movie was about taking scenes out or reorienting them or putting music over scenes that I hadn't thought of before. That was the joy of the editing of this movie. It was not spending 3 weeks trying to make a scene work because it was what it was. That was it, And that was the result of just having so much time to think and write and prep this movie for years.
How many years?
Six, from beginning to end, 6 years. And that was a joy. So I was able to show up on set, just dialed in.
Just the piano player.
Well, I figured you needed no introduction.
Hello, I'm Lenny.
So I remember on American Hustle was the first time I was experiencing an actor stay in the voice of a character. It was Christian Bale. I had heard stories about Daniel Day-Lewis and stuff like that. It always seemed like I couldn't quite figure out how one, as an actor, could deal with the break in reality. Then I realized I was overthinking it. Christian just stayed in the voice, but we talked about his kids. It wasn't like he saw an iPhone and had a heart attack. It was very sort of, it's just you stay in the voice. Ever since American Hustle, that's how I've done it as an actor. And even in Star is Born, I just sort of stayed in Jackson Maine's voice. And in this case,
for the audience, so when you're on the set, and you give instructions to the great DP Matty Lapatique or anybody else, you're speaking your voice is Lenny's?
So not only is the voice Lenny's, the thing about this movie is, because I spend 6 hours in the makeup trailer, average maybe 3 to 6 hours every day before crew call, because I want to be there, obviously, to set, the thing I don't ever like, walking in like, who's setting up a light? We didn't talk about it. It drives me nuts, so that never happens. You with me?
I'm just having flashbacks. oh, wait a minute.
Who?
WTF? Whoa. We're not having that today, people. Let's go.
If anybody had any idea of how hard it is.
That never happened with Maddie. With some other people. I'd like. Say, okay. Let's, come here a second. Let's go outside for a second. Let's take a walk around the block. Because we got to get it straight.
Yeah, right away. With this situation, because I was Lenny throughout his life, it was actually kind of, it was unique and hilarious because when it was young Lenny, the energy of the set was faster and we got more done. And then as it was old Lenny, it had a slower gear. It was like seventh gear, second gear, and then so it wasn't just the voice; it was Lenny. I mean, if you ask the crew or the cast, it was Lenny directing the movie. And that's just the way it was.
Did you shoot it in order?
No. The first scene that we shot was the scene where old Lenny's teaching young William conducting. That's the first scene we shot. The first shot of the film was him arriving in the Jaguar to Maestro 1 to the REM song. That was the first shot we did, only because locations, Tanglewood, which is where we shot, was only available then. So that, ideally I wouldn't have jumped right into the deep end, but actually I thought it was a great thing. Also for the crew to understand the dynamic, because there's this old man walking up to set and that's me directing the movie. And it was. Did
it help your voice that you were in makeup?
Makeup doesn't. Well, I mean, everything helped.
Okay.
But in terms of the creation of the voice, no, it was just through years of working with Tim Monick 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. That's what did it. So Tim Monick, who's an incredible dialect coach that Leonardo DiCaprio turned me on to years ago, I started working with him on American Sniper because that was the first time, besides Joseph Merrick, I was playing a real human being, and I thought I've got to, really become this guy, or a version of us melded together. And so Tim Monick came, and we worked on Chris Kyle, who the movie was about. And then I did.
What kind
of what?
Dialect? What were you trying to just?
Oh, you break it at first. You literally think, where's the person from? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, that regional accent. And then how does their mouth, where's their jaw, how's their tongue, are they breathe through their nose, their mouth, and you just break it down like if it's a machine. Mm-hmm. And then you do exercises, and then you just keep doing that, and then you listen to interviews of that person, and then just slowly sort of listen to it, and then try to say it back. And then by the end of it, you're reading random newspaper clippings as him, then you start having conversations in the voice, and eventually it becomes a part of you. But in this case, it was 3 different voices over his lifespan, because Lenny's voice dropped an octave as he got older due to what happens as you age, and also the amount of smoking that Lenny did.
How many cigarettes do you smoke? How many packs do you smoke a day?
So he started smoking when he was 13 years old, and he never stopped. He tried to quit a couple of times, but it didn't work. He tried to use an aqua filter, which is what Felicia used, which wound up actually was more toxic in the end. But he was the kind of guy, like my father, who had, ashtrays by the bathtub, that kind of thing.
Everybody smoked back then, right?
Yeah, and that's what killed her. And that's why cigarettes, they're a character in the movie, and smoke is a character in the movie.
So when you rapped and went home, did you lose the voice?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So the voice would come, this is how, I'd show up to work with Kazu at like 1 a.m., we start the active process of putting on the prosthetic and creating that look, and then in order to save time, I didn't have a trailer. I just had my wardrobe on the end of the makeup trailer with a curtain that I go back, and as I got changed, before I'd come back out, before we put like a wig on or the last touches, I would do that leap of faith, Spike, where I would say, well, it's time. And I'd come back and I would sort of be Lenny, and I would sit down, and God bless Kazu, he wouldn't sort of, all of a sudden I'm completely different. I go in that room, I come out, and he never laughed at me. He just sort of went with it. And that was vulnerable, dude. It was like when I went on set, I would be, there's all this crew. Mango, Scott Sakamoto, Colin Anderson, all these, heavyweights. And they were all, and Maddie. And they all just fed the illusion. And so actually it was a blessing to be able to be Lenny through the whole day. And I think it also helped the actors. I think the actors coming on set and seeing Leonard Bernstein direct them and talk to them, I think it just freed them up to just absolutely jump off a cliff. That's how it felt. We were all jumping off a cliff every day. And that's because of Lenny.
Mr. Spielberg, what did he say in his notes?
You gotta ask him.
All right. Let's talk about Ms. Mulligan.
Yeah. So, as a filmmaker, I'm sure you felt this. When Denzel's your lead, well, you tell me, but my hunch is when Denzel's your lead, you can really focus on the filmmaking.
Yes. I mean, like...
Right? As opposed to...
Denzel, you good for that? Can we move on, Denzel? All right, Denzel, so we can move on.
But really,
I'm just joking, but
yeah. I mean it really, because I had this thoroughbred actor in this role who put in the work.
Yeah.
It really, I felt like I was able to use all of my sort of creative energy to, am I making the best cinema possible for telling this story? Because I wasn't so focused on, half the day trying to get Carey Mulligan to a place where I believed that she was serving Felicia Montelegre's need at this moment in the movie.
Oh, life is not that serious. Honest, it isn't. What age are we living in? One can be as free as one likes without guilt or confession.
For an actor, there's very demanding scenes in this movie. There's a fight scene that lasts 3 or 4 minutes. And it's Thanksgiving Day where it's one wide shot and she has to run it. And if she wasn't there, if she wasn't able to do it, there's no way cinematically I could explore that. Same thing when they're having an argument and we're all the way far away and they have to stay within the confines of this square, both of them in their own square. So she couldn't move. The whole point was, no, you have to stay in here, the hat's on, and talk to me. But I don't want you to move your head because then the illusion cinematically of they're both in these separate boxes will be gone. She was able to deliver stuff like that effortlessly. Also, a push-in that last 4 minutes of her receiving guests when she's dying of cancer. The fact that, and I told her, I said, look, I don't want to cut from this. This is how I see this.
You have a lot of
stuff like that
where you just let it run.
Yeah, and so that was because I had her, because she was so deep into Felicia, because she has such a skill set as an actor, because she understands rhythm. We were able to make music together all the time as Lenny and Felicia. She locked into the music of their dialogue early on because we worked so hard together with Tim Monick and did a dream workshop. I asked her to do a lot of prep. I like to do a lot of prep with the actors. Not rehearsal.
Put the work in.
Not rehearsal, prep. Serious prep. And I expect/demand that they do it on their own. I learned the only way we have a shot at making a great movie is if everybody's absolutely prepared. It's just not going to work if you're not.
Seems I'm attracted to a certain type.
Listen,
Lenny loves you. He really does.
Can you talk about the different aspect ratios you did, and also when you choose to have the scene shot in black and white, then color? Yeah.
So early on, as I was researching this movie, and I knew it was going to be a movie about, I wanted to write a movie with Josh Singer about marriage and the two of them, that it was going to span decades. That's the way to tell the story. And all of the video footage, film, that's from back in the 40s and 50s, it's all black and white, and it's all in that 1:3:3 aspect, this square, but not, close to that 1:3:3 aspect ratio. So that's one element. The other thing is, when I first start to think about a movie, it's always within the frame of how I would watch it. So, and I don't know, but that's just sort of how my brain works. So A Star Is Born, the original things I thought about was that it was coming in left to right and right to left. This was the energy coming like that. And for Maestro, very early on, I went, it's depth, it's foreground, background, and it's vertical. And then as I kept envisioning scenes, one of the first scenes that I wrote 5 years ago was him waking up, up with the gods at Carnegie Hall, and then being called by God to come and for his destiny, and then pushed out. That early on, I realized the only way I can have a window in him, I think this has to be a 1:3:3 aspect ratio. Mm-hmm. And then I thought, and that also will make me as an audience feel like I'm really, because that's how it was. Mm-hmm. So that was set up, and I knew it was going to be in black and white because, again, that's how one's memory works when you watch something from that time period. To me, it would be work to watch that in color as an audience member and believe it's really happening.
Right.
So luckily, I told Maddie this years ago, and so we just started testing.
Years ago?
Yeah, because we just started testing the monochromatic black and white.
Before?
We were in post for A Star Is Born when I said we're gonna do this other thing in 5 years probably. But when you are off, can you come and I just want to test some stuff. Because I think we're going to have to shoot on film, and I think it's going to have to be black and white.
You got to mention it.
Yeah, I mean, and I think.
Why did you choose film?
So that's what I'm saying. So we tested the monochromatic black and white, digital, the red camera. We desaturated color, and we all A/B'd that against black and white 35 millimeter, that 22 stock, I think, Kodak, and I couldn't beat it. I would shoot tests of me or another person, and then we would develop it, and we put it against the digital, and then we tried to color it with Stefan Sonnenfeld and Company 3, who's incredible. I work with every movie.
Company 3 in New York or LA?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because I live in New York, I would go here, but ideally I like to color in there with him. But he came to New York often.
Right.
I work with him as closely as I work with anybody else. Mm-hmm. And we just couldn't beat it. And in fact, it wasn't even a question. I fell in love with it. I just fell in love with it. And also, close-ups in this film are very judicious, and they're a huge element because it's the movie, when we have close-ups, it's about Lenny's impact that I want the audience to see on faces. And that, as you know, close-ups in that 1:3:3 are really beautiful. Mm-hmm. I always wanted to go to 1:8:5 after her death because in some ways, he became freer with certain elements. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to, and also the fact that the movie has changed once she's died. So that was, a lot of movies in the 80s, it's 1:8:5. There's no 1:3:3. Right. So there was two elements to that. So early on, like years before, that was it. So it's going to be one.
So you had the blueprint, right?
Oh, yeah. Now, I allowed myself to let it evolve, but yes. Mm-hmm. But that was the impetus for, I always knew there was going to be an aspect ratio change. And that was a big deal for Netflix, because it becomes problematic. And I learned in theaters, because what happens is it starts to look like a trapezoid, that 1:3:3. So it's not the easiest thing in the world to do that in movies.
Let's not make excuses. He didn't fail me.
Felicia.
No, it's my own arrogance.
When one does a biopic and that family or person is alive, there might be some problems.
Yeah.
Talk about your relationship with the Bernstein family.
Well, I was sort of forewarned about how tough the Bernstein family can be, that they shoot from the hip, they're direct, and you better have thick skin. As a person in this industry, we're used to that. Mm-hmm. What I found for the first time I met them was just a kindred spirit. I felt it. And by the way, I pitched them a movie, which the pitch was, always wanted to conduct since I was a kid. I have a huge engine of energy that translates into a crazy work ethic. I don't know what the movie is yet, but if you trust me, I'll let you know in like a month. And I'll let you know if I can do this or not. But I feel like there's something here. That was my pitch. And they went with me. And then a month later, I came to them and I said, I want to make a movie about your parents. And I know that they were in disbelief that the IP of Leonard Bernstein was going to be translated into a movie about marriage, and that their mother was going to be a huge, if not the lead character of the movie.
When did they get a script?
They didn't get a script. They got scenes. They were part of the process. I included them because they were vital. Nina, Alex, and Jamie, the 3 children. They were vital in giving us access to home videos. They would make movies in their house. Their home, which once I went to, I was like, we got to shoot here in Fairfield, Connecticut. So I just started writing with Josh. We started writing scenes. I wanted that house to be an example of the home that they were making, making their garden grow from Candide. And they read many drafts of the script throughout 3 or 4 years. Now, when we shoot the movie, no one's allowed on set. Steven Spielberg came 3 times to visit, but other than him, there's nobody. That's just the way. It has to be a sanctuary.
Lockdown.
Lockdown.
Unlock.
Yes. And I think at first they were like, well, we've been such a part of it. And I was just like, no, trust me. Then right after, I showed them drafts of the versions of the movie. I would send them scenes. I'd invite them over to the house because I knew that, we're going to tell a very honest portrayal of their family. And I think that...
And some things... Go finish.
And that they would have to, that I think that it would, if you were making a movie about, if you came to me and said, I want to make a movie about my dad and my mom, that's heavy, man.
Yeah.
Especially...
It's family.
Especially if I'm doing the work and they actually feel like it's their parents breathing up there, which they did, which was incredible. I was very sensitive so that it wasn't just hitting them, dropping the thing at the end, because I think that would have been overwhelming.
Let's talk about the co-writer, Josh Singer.
Yeah, incredible guy. He was a part of this project. Martin Scorsese was going to do it, and then Steven Spielberg was going to do a version of a Leonard Bernstein movie, and he had hired Josh Singer to write it, and that's how I came across. I read another movie about Leonard Bernstein, and I said, I found the thing I love to do, which is write and direct movies. If you're not going to do it, Steven, can I take it over and see if there's something that I could write? And I said, Josh, if you want to come aboard, because you've been working on this for so many years, I'd be honored.
Is he in LA or New York?
He's in LA.
Okay.
And so he said, yeah. And then so he went on this journey with me, and we researched for 2 years. And then I decided what I wanted it to be. And then he and I wrote it together.
What has he done before? I don't have...
He did Spotlight. He wrote First Man, The Post.
Yeah. You did listen to every single piece of music that Lenny did, right?
That I could. I mean, there were little things. He was constantly composing things for friends. I know I missed some stuff, but yeah, I swam in his music for years.
So, how did you decide what
I
pieces,
put in?
What we put in, and also stuff that's in the film that you hear or score?
So there's no score in the movie. It's all.
But score.
His music.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So you go on the waterfront. I would consider that score.
No, but it's a needle drop technically.
Okay,
you know what I'm saying? I never hired a composer to score the film.
Okay.
Yeah. And I did the same thing on A Star Is Born. The little stuff that score I did at home. On the waterfront, when I told you about that early sequence that I envisioned, it was always on the waterfront. That on a waterfront, I wanted to blast the audience right away with the energy of this kid, and let them know that this is a unicorn. So that whole first thing was all for us to establish that. And then West Side Story was something that he was sort of sick and tired of people talking about all the time. So I sort of had fun with that and wrote a scene where it's him coming to Fairfield, and the shots are composed to elicit sort of a memory of West Side Story, where she's Bernardo on the top of the stairs.
Jets?
Yeah, exact. Sharks and the Jets, and then through
that one, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But every piece of music, he composed a piece of music called Anniversary for Felicia. That's what's playing as they decide to, after he introduces her to David Oppenheim, and they decide to walk, and then she proposes to him. David Oppenheim was a clarinetist, and he composed a clarinet sonata. That's in there when we're with David Oppenheim, and it's also at the end where after they get diagnosed, she gets diagnosed with cancer, and they're back to back. That clarinet comes in also because it's melancholic, but I wanted you maybe emotionally to remember when they did that earlier in the movie, and David was a part of it.
Yes.
Yes?
I mean,
No!
not here, no.
No, not here. No, it's not how I meant it to be.
Trouble in Tahiti is the song that is something which is about a couple fighting, and there's trouble in Tahiti, and that's playing as on their first
based
date.
on Marlon Brando and somebody else?
Is that right?
I don't know. I'm just saying, he was in Tahiti.
Yeah. And so every Mahler's resurrection is the resurrection of their relationship. Everything was based on everything was to story, and I had this incredible treasure chest of music that I could use and thread a story. And actually, I was just listening. We made a soundtrack that came out last week. A vinyl of Maestro, the soundtrack, and
vinyl?
Yeah,
Oh,
and also it's on Spotify. But you can, when you listen to it, it tracks. I mean, at least to me, I'm like, we told a movie with his music, just his music.
Because you know how to use music in a film, sir.
Thank you. So the first time that I met you, even though we can't remember this phantom movie, maybe I was auditioning for you. One thing you as a young actor, or you realize when they say audition, normally you think it's going to be on tape with the assistant to the casting director. If you're lucky, it's going to be the casting director. If you hit the jackpot, which never happens ever, the director may be there. And in this case, it said, in attendance, Spike Lee. And
Was this in New York, LA?
In New York, had to be New York.
Okay.
Yeah, and I remember coming. It was like a rectangular room. There were a bunch of people. You were in the background, and then you came up once the thing started, and you were so kind to me, and I was losing my mind because, as a young boy growing up in Philadelphia, Italian American, when Do the Right Thing came through our neighborhood, that movie really messed me up in the best way.
What'd your father say?
Oh, he loved you.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah, he loved you.
Hey, Sal.
Yeah. My father was Irish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my mother's Italian. For me as a kid, it was Raging Bull, Do the Right Thing, Apocalypse Now. I mean, these are the things that shaped me. As
Francis and Marty, huh?
You know, but really, it's the things that shaped me. But Do the Right Thing was, I must have seen that movie I don't know how many times. And really it was because of the feeling that it left with it. First of all, the rhythm, how innovative. I was like, you could do this with a movie. The type of acting that was going on. It was just everything together. It felt musical. And I related to it. And then I related to characters I didn't think I would relate to. It was all just like, film at its finest. And so when I got to meet Mr. Spike Lee at this audition years later, it was
we can't remember what film it was.
It was a monumental moment. And then fast forward, when was it again? I can't remember. But all of a sudden we became friends.
We were on the Oscar tour.
I think it was the Oscar tour for Stars Born and your movie. Yeah, exactly.
While we were doing a panel like this. You brought that up because
it was a round table. That's right.
Yeah, the round table. What I will say about you is that, man, you're amazing. Got the skills in front of and behind the camera. As I said before, and I've seen Maestro 3 times. I'm gonna see many more. What you did is monumental. I mean, that's no argument. I mean, and being a lover of that music, On the Water, that's my favorite film. I became very good friends with Bud Schulberg, who wrote that, and he introduced me to Kazan. So I got all them posters signed by both of them. But what you did, when I see you, I get excited because when I see great cinema, I'm like fired up. I don't care who it does, because it's right there on the screen. And you did the damn thing. I mean, whether people like it or not, I don't give a, you know what. This is a masterful, directed, and performance that you have. And just know that the years you put in to get this. I tell my students, you got to put the excuse my language, you got to put the motherfucker work in. You can't be faking the funk. You got to put the work in. You got to. That's. I could tell a student the camera here, wah. But I think the most important thing I try to impart is that the work ethic. I don't care what you're doing. You got to put the work in, or you're faking it. And also, that there's no such thing, I feel, for overnight success. when young artists or whoever you are think that the hand of God, you're told all these stories and myths and stuff like that, the hand of God has come out of the blue heavens anointing you as the next motherfucker. No, no, no. I mean, and a lot of times, people who've had hardships don't talk about the time, they were given blood to eat. I wish more people artists people look up to would just tell them that, like, you're not gonna be me. If be you, but you gotta work.
Yeah.
You gotta put the work in. And there's no shortcuts.
No.
That's what I'm saying.
No, there's no shortcuts.
No shortcuts. No.
Thank God.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Here's the key, though. If you love what you do, it's not work.
That's right.
Give me some. If you love what you do, it's not work.
That's right.
Would you sit in makeup for 6 hours at 1 o'clock in the MF morning if you love what you're doing?
Impossible.
That's what I'm saying, yo.
Yeah.
You gotta love what you do.
Period.
And on top of that, if you're making a living doing what you love, it's not a job. Because most people, I say this all the time in class, most people go to their graves having slaved to the job they hated. So you're blessed. If you could do what you love and make money and support yourself, you're good.
Yep.
That's why I was hearing what you're saying. With the whole set be closed, and wrapped up and everybody together, you gotta have positive energy.
Oh, yeah. Key.
You gotta have,
That's
it could be one, excuse my language, it could be one motherfucker
That's true.
that fucks
The
everything
whole thing.
up.
That's right.
Kill the vibe.
That's right. No question.
The set is sacred.
Sacred.
Now, it's funny. Several times Spielberg invited me out to Harlem when they're doing
West Side
America.
Story. Yeah.
Some things can't be controlled. I mean, it was like in the middle of Harlem, man. That shit was crazy. But I loved it.